Everything you need to know about the Bantu Biblical Lunar Calendar. Before using the calendar, we highly recommend that you read this word per word to understand how this calendar works. As Yisrael, a set-apart people, so-called Bantu scattered to the four corners of the world, the 12 tribes of Yah and Zambi/Sanini/Mungu, who were given the laws and commandments to abide by, the first 4 commandments being to worship the Most High only, and interestingly the 5th commandment is about resting in holiness forever. Sabbath is also a form of worship. We know for certain that the seed of the fallen tempered with almost everything they touched. Scriptures testifies that they even twisted scriptures, whether in the color image of the biblical people. 1 Maccabees 3:48 and Daniel 7:25, the Egyptians were indeed evil to us in particular, but the serpent seed were against humanity in general. They intended to destroy everything that's of the Most High. They changed the Sabbath day and changed the calendar of the Most High to the Julian, then the Gregorian calendar introduced in 1582 Pope Gregory XIII. They dedicated every single day and month of their Gregorian calendar from Moon Day to Sunday from January to December to commemorate their satanic deities. For instance, Saturdays are dedicated to Saturn or Saturnus and Sundays are dedicated to the sun god, and through Christian colonialism these pagan practices were then systematically forced upon our people. This was purposely done in order to get rid of the creation calendar and make the new moon, the Sabbath and all the festivities fall on different days of their calendar, which made it as almost impossible to observe our biblical days without persecutions. Indeed, the world is given into the hands of the wicked, but most people, without making thorough research, assume March is the new year simply because September comes from the Latin word septem, which means 7. This is just as a bias-drawn conclusion as believing in the letter J Jesus. Here is the reason. The Roman calendar, famously known as the Julian calendar by Julius Caesar, was proposed in 46 BC and used from 1 AD by the Roman Empire in the vast part of Europe. It started in March and had 10 months. This explains why March being first month, September would be 7, October 8, November 9, and December 10. This was commonly used before it was changed to the current 12 months Gregorian calendar by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582, which was later used to invent the modern-day March Jewish calendar. Both the 13 months calendar and the new year starting in March are all just deceptions to mislead the mass even more. The shocking reality is that even after converting to 12 months they still have in place these same Latin month names which do not in any way correspond with the number because their deities which they are named after come first. Here, the word September, which is today said 9th month, comes from the Latin word septem, which means 7. October, which is the 10th month, actually means 8. November means 9 and December means 10. The sole reason they never appropriately updated these months was because of the names represent in the Roman darkest secrets. The Bantu calendar is not based upon the Jewish calendar nor the Egyptian nor the Ethiopian calendars, but a completely separate calendar of its own based on scriptures and our Bantu customs. Because knowing that, like the Romans, the Egyptian calendar is also based upon Egyptian gods, which we cannot accommodate, this means we have to be a lot more careful when driving into this research. Yet still, Egypt is an important factor in helping to recover the true Bantu calendar, as we spent more time in Egypt than any other place outside our land. Interesting enough, it is biblically proven that the children of Israel, understood time of the day by simply looking at the sun. It's also most important to note that they observed, not worship, the moon, counting one month after the other from new moon to new moon. Bantu customs and languages happen to be the only standing proof with the same exact practices. In Swahili, just like any other Bantu languages, the word for month, moon and female menstrual circle is the same exact word, mwezi, including in Zulu, Kikuyu, Shona, Xhosa, Ndebele, Nyanja, Swana, Kinyarwanda, Hutu, Bembe, Mashi, Havu, Nand, Lega, Fuloro, Bahunde, Nandi, Luya, Luba, Congo and all other Bantu languages. This is part of the many evidences showing that our ancestors understood the impact of the moon circle, and gives much confirmation that Bantu people are the true descendants of the 12 tribes of the biblical Israelites scattered throughout the world today. The only people on earth practicing male circumcision not as religiously required but as our culture, a monotheistic people. Our traditions are the Torah and our languages constitute the original Hebrew tongue. Most people, due to the amount of misconceptions out there, many tend to follow the sun alone, others tend to follow the moon alone, and the rest follow white people, all of which are in deceptions. This confusion was prophesied by different prophets mainly in the book of Jubilees 6. First and foremost, we must remind everyone that the promised land is not in Middle East, but in September to November mark the seasons of spring, December to March marks summer, March to June marks autumn and June to August marks winter. This is the same in all of southern African countries. Note, The reason why the Ethiopian calendar has 13 months is because 12 months comprises of exactly 30 days and an additional 1 month with 6 days. This obviously does not align properly with the lunar cycle. It does not have a set-apart new moon feast day each month. It also does not recognize the weekly Sabbath. It is also 7 years behind the world station calendar. In our Bantu customs, we use both the moon and the sun. The sun determines times and seasons of the year and the moon determines the months, one month starting from one new moon to the other. The Book of Enoch 78 also attests to this very approach. Like the lunar cycle, our Bantu calendar usually has 12 months, and each month going between 29 and 30 days starting from the first full moon of the first month of the year to the next, usually around September. The solar equinox occurs in March in the northern hemisphere and in September in the southern hemisphere. This is what dictates the differences in seasons between the northern and southern hemisphere. For instance, when it is winter in Europe and America, it will be summer in sub-Saharan Africa. When it is autumn in Europe and America, it is spring in sub-Saharan Africa. When the southern hemisphere is tilted toward the sun, it's spring and summer, and when it is tilted away from the sun it is autumn and winter. It is important to note that even though the moon takes 27.3 days to orbit Earth, the actual lunar phase cycle from new moon to new moon takes 29.52 days. The Bible in Revelation 11:1-3 and Enoch 74:9-17 speaks clearly about the need to use both the moon and the sun. One is to firstly celebrate the new month festival, then 7 days after is another Sabbath or Sabbato or Samba. Ideally start counting from day 2 as day 1 is new moon day, from sunset to sunset. A biblical month is equivalent to 4 Sabbath days, 28 days, plus a new moon celebration day at the beginning of each month and a possible extra day at the end of each month, because a lunar cycle is usually between 29 and 30 days. We will break this down further for you to understand. The lunar calendar is 29.5 days a month, 354 days a year, summing up to 1062 days in 3 years and 1770 days in 5 years, meaning the moon falls 10 days behind the sun each year and 30 days each 3 years and 50 days each 5 years. The solar cycle is 364 days per year. The Book of Enoch 74 gives enormous details on how it is important for the moon and the sun to work together. The book demonstrates that for this to possible the moon and the sun have to either meet every 3rd year or every 5th years or every 8th year. The lunar month is 29.5 days. If we take all the half days away because half a day cannot be counted on a calendar, 12 half days of the lunar cycle equal to 6 full days. We are going to distribute the 6 days to make 6 months of each year 30 days each and the remaining 6 months 29 days each. This will give us a sum of 354 days per lunar year, and it will align properly with both the monthly and annual lunar cycle, but will be 10 days behind the sun. We will then multiply 354 days by 3 years, which will be 1062 days. This means the moon will be 30 days behind the sun, and to bring both the sun and the moon together, we will simply add a 30 days 13th month every 3rd year. This will be known as leap year, but it will allow the sun and the moon to both starts the 4th year at the exact time in September and balance the sabbatical festivals, new moon festivals and other biblical festivals in alignment with scriptures. Note, some people are adding the leap year on the 5th year, others on the 8th year. We chose the 3rd year because it allows the month to start and end at exactly the same time as the new moon day and the lunar 3rd year to end at the same exact time as the solar 3rd year. This way also means that in 3 years we will have covered 1092 days. If you divide 1092 days by 3 years you have 364 days, which is the actual solar year, and both the moon, the sun and the stars are accurately completed in conformity with their world stations. This is what the angel spoke to the patriarch Enoch in the Book of Enoch 73, 74 and 75. In regards to people suggesting that the Sabbath is supposed to start from sunrise to sunrise because we are the children of light and not of darkness. First of all, I don't believe anything Tata created was evil. The darkness is a blessing. It was simply a chance for us to rest as he finished his work each day and waited for the next day to continue from where he left off, so that we can rest and re-energize and start another day tomorrow all refreshed. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Proverbs 3:24. I will not lie to you, I was once in agreement with the sunrise to sunrise Sabbath, but when I started to follow scriptures closely and not just my own understanding, I slowly started seeing the patterns of how the Most High truly wants us to observe his days. Before light, there was darkness. That's why scriptures say in Genesis 1:2-3, and the earth was without form, and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be a light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. About the new moon month, there's no question about that. And this is what make the Bantu month different from the Jewish. A new moon is just what it says, new moon, and this alone explains why you can't have a new moon or new month on full moon. It is supposed to start. Nothing starts from fullness. As kids, growing up in sub-Saharan Africa, we used to always celebrate the full moon. Every full moon all the children would meet and have a beautiful night around fire, singing and dancing and storytelling. This was beautiful, and this custom is still done in many places in sub-Saharan Africa to this very day, just like it was done with our ancestors in scriptures. But this was never meant to mark the beginning of the month, but a festival in the middle of it, hence the verse Psalm 81:3, blow the trumpet at the new moon, at the full moon, on our feast day. Most Passover festival happens on this, the full moon, including this year's Passover. According to sub-Saharan astronomical data, spring begins around September, and goes till November, but moon cycles don't dictate seasons and are two completely different things. Over the course of one's life, the dates of the full moon have shifted by weeks, yet the seasons have not changed. Scriptural months follow the moon cycles, not seasons. For instance, even if spring in sub-Saharan Africa doesn't start until the 21st of September, the first month of the year can start before or after this date depending on the moon cycles. Secondly, it is clear in scriptures that the Sabbath is sunset to sunset, as it allows to prepare for the actual Sabbath day in the morning. If you read Genesis 1:5 with an open mind and lead by the Spirit of the Most High, you'll see right through it. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. This last part clearly says sunset to sunset, meaning the day starts at sunrise and ends at sunset, but the night before the sunrise has to be consumed first to mark the 12 hours night to make the day completely 24 hours by sunset next day. Leviticus 23:32 is clear about sunset to sunset Sabbath. It is a day of Sabbath rest for you, and you must deny yourselves. From the evening of the 9th day of the month until the following evening you are to observe your Sabbath. Surprising enough, there's also no scriptures agreeing with the sunrise to sunrise Sabbath concert. It's all just an idea and therefore personal opinions. Here is another verse for sunset to sunset Sabbath. And it came to pass, that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. Nehemiah 13:19. Sunset to sunset still celebrates the Sabbath during the day. It's called the morning of the Sabbath, and if you read between the lines and not be guided by emotions, you'd realize that scriptures such as John 11:9, John 9:2, Genesis 2:1-3, Exodus 28:11, Isaiah 58:13-14, 56:1-8, Acts 17:2, Acts 18:4, 11, Luke 4:16, Mark 2:27-28, Matthew 12:10-12, Hebrews 4:1-11, Genesis 1:5, 13-14, Nehemiah 13:19 all only support this work right here. Last but not least, apart from the new month feasts and Sabbath days each year, there are other festivals which are to be observed every year, as spoken in Jubilees 6:23, as observed by our patriarch Noah, and in Exodus 12:13 by Moshe and all the Bantu. These including Passover, which is celebrated on the 14th day of the first month as per Exodus 12 and Chronicles 35:1-19. Festival of Unleavened Bread is to start on the 15th of the first month and goes for 7 days after that as per Exodus 12:8-20. Festival of First Fruits is to be celebrated on the same 15th day of the first month together with the Feast of Unleavened Bread as per Leviticus 23:9-14. Festival of Pentecost, weeks, is celebrated on the 4th day of the 3rd month exactly after 50 days, or rather full 7 weeks after the Passover as per Leviticus 23:15-20, Deuteronomy 16:9 and Numbers 28:26-31. Festival of Trumpets is celebrated on the 1st day of the 7th month as per Leviticus 23:23-37 and Numbers 29:1. Day of Atonement is commemorated on the 10th day of the 7th month as per Leviticus 16:23-26-32 and Numbers 29:7-11. Festival of Booths, Tabernacle, is celebrated on the 15th day of the 7th month, exactly 5 days after the Day of Atonement as per in Leviticus 23:33-43, Deuteronomy 16:13-15. Numbers 29:12-40, and then last but not least, the Feast of Dedication, which is celebrated on 25th day of the 9th month as per 1 Maccabees 4:52-59 and John 10:22-23. I hope that this calendar will be useful to all of us to observe the Sabbath day as instructed in scriptures. I also hope that it will be a pathway for all of us to observe all the biblical festivals as commanded by the Most High, and not these pagan feasts we were conditioned to observe which go against the Most High's order of creation. And through guidance of the Spirit of the Most High, a few years of observing the lunar cycle and the solar cycle, revisiting geography and history, digging into our ancestral linguistic accounts, both time and energy sacrificed, applying intelligent opinions and references from both the Bible and the Bantu customs, sometimes going back and forth between scriptures, conducting private debates with different people within the awakening, various prayer sessions so that we can put together something concrete. I would like to thank the Most High for the wisdom. And despite all the effort and time I have invested in this, I would personally encourage all of you to carry out your own personal research following the biblical references and data links I have attached below, and if you have any concerns, don't hesitate to inbox us, as this is a work in progress and we don't have all the answers. If you are happy to start here and need a free PDF copy, don't hesitate to inbox us. Reference: Bible references. Genesis 1:5-19, 2-1-3, 13-14, Sirach 43:6-8, Psalms 104:19, 81-3, Numbers 9, 10-1-10, 28:11-15, 15:32-36, Exodus 12:1-20, 20-8-11, 40-2, Ezra 7:9, Deuteronomy 5:15, Leviticus 23:1-37, 1 Maccabees 4:52-59, 2 Maccabees 15:36, John 10:22-23, 1 Chronicles 23:30-31, 2 Chronicles 2:4, 8:12-13, 31-3, Nehemiah 10:32-33, 13-19, Ezekiel 45:17, 46-1, 1 Samuel 25, 2 Kings 4:23, Amos 8:5, Isaiah 58:13-14, 56-1-8, 66:23, Jubilees 2-9, 6:23, 6:30-38. 49:14-23, Enoch 73:13-16, 74:1-17, 75:1-9, Revelation 11:1-3, Acts 17:2, Luke 4:16, Matthew 14:25.